For more than 60 years, one question has haunted the Dyatlov Pass mystery. What could possibly make 9 experienced hikers abandon their tent in the middle of a freezing night? For decades, people blamed everything from military experiments to strange weather and even more extraordinary possibilities. But then, scientists proposed a much simpler explanation: an avalanche. At first, that sounds convincing. The hikers had camped on an exposed mountain slope. Their tent had been cut from the inside, and the group had suddenly escaped toward the forest without taking their proper winter clothing. The original investigation found that the tent cuts had indeed been made from the inside. Sight-turn-search 4. But there was a problem. Searchers did not report finding the kind of obvious avalanche Dyatlov expect. So, how could an avalanche have caused the disaster? In 2021, researchers published a scientific model suggesting that this may not have been a typical avalanche at all. Instead, they proposed a type of compacted snow slab. Here's how it could have happened. The hikers cut into the mountain slope to create a flat area for their tent. Then, powerful downslope winds carried snow toward the slope above them. Over several hours, that snow could have accumulated and become heavier. Eventually, a slab of snow may have broken loose and pressed down onto the tent. The impact may not have buried the entire campsite. Instead, it could have injured some of the hikers and created enough fear to make them believe another collapse was possible. And that could explain the strangest decision of all. They escaped through cuts in the tent and moved downhill toward the forest. But they left their boots, their warm clothing, their equipment, everything they would normally need to survive the night. The theory suggests they may have planned to get to the forest, shelter there temporarily, and return to the tent once the danger had passed. But the weather was brutal. Temperatures fell far below freezing, and powerful winds made the conditions even more dangerous. Sight-turn-search 2. One group reached a forested area and built a fire. Others appear to have remained between tent. Some of the injuries discovered later have also been considered compatible with a snow slab impact. And suddenly, parts of the mystery begin to fit together. The damaged tent, the injuries, the sudden escape, the footprints leading downhill, and the decision to seek shelter in the forest. But here's where the mystery gets interesting. Even the avalanche explanation doesn't answer everything perfectly. Why did the hikers leave so suddenly? Why were some of them so lightly dressed? Why did they fail to return to the tent? And why did the final moments of the expedition unfold so differently for different members of the group? The avalanche theory may explain the beginning of the disaster, but it doesn't necessarily explain every moment that followed. That's why the Dyatlov Pass incident remains so fascinating. The mystery may no longer be about some impossible force. It may be about a chain of ordinary events that became deadly in an extraordinary environment. A decision to camp on a slope, wind, snow, darkness, fear, and freezing temperatures. Perhaps there was never one unbelievable event. Perhaps it was a sequence of small events that gave the hikers only one terrible choice: leave the tent or stay inside and risk something even worse. So did science finally solve Dyatlov Pass? Maybe, but perhaps the real mystery isn't what happened. It's what those 9 hikers believed was happening in the darkness that made them walk into the cold. And that is something we may never know.